Hello, everybody. Hello, friends. This is Dr. Dan Cardellichio. Want to welcome you to another version, another Monday of Momentum Monday. I'm here with my partner in crime, my co-host, and she's got an excellent background today. I love it. How are you? Leadership expert, best-selling author, move the ball, attorney Jen Garrett. Jen, how are you today?
Hey, Dan, as we were talking earlier, I am super energized today, even more so. And as I was telling you, it must be because Tampa Bay beat Green Bay. Sorry, Packers fans, but as a Bears fan, I had to root for Tampa Bay. It's a friendly
Well,
rivalry.
Well, you know what happens now is we have Tampa Bay and we have Kansas City, right, in the Super Bowl. So if Patrick Mahomes wants to give me a call, I'm going to give him my cell phone number, 917-608-5896. He could come on to Momentum Monday. That's number one. Number two, if he calls me up and if he's nice, I just may, as a Giants fan, give a little bit of insight on how to beat Tom Brady. Sorry, Patriot fans. It happened twice. So, we're one of the few that can do that. So, anyway, Mr. Mahomes, if you do want to give me a call, you have my cell and we'll go from there. So, Jen, what does it mean to win? What does it mean to win? What does that mean to you? What does that statement mean to you?
Yeah, so we were just talking about football. It's very easy in football for people to get aligned around the biggest goal, which is to win football games every week, right? This last weekend was the NFC AFC championship. The focus is on winning the game and putting together the playbook that you need to score more points than the other opponent. What does it mean to win for us? It isn't so cut and dry, black and white, because we all have
Mhm.
different goals, we all have different dreams, aspirations, passions, etc. So, what does it mean to win? That chapter in the book was really about thinking through what are your goals? What is
Mhm.
important to you? But it's not just about setting a goal, setting a SMART goal. Many people watching may have heard of that acronym SMART, or maybe you haven't. And so, what SMART stands for those that aren't familiar, is a specific, measurable, actionable. I use relevant. Some people use realistic as the R, and time
Mhm.
bound. And the reason I think relevant is more important than realistic is you can set realistic goals that don't align with anything that you want. So it's not whether or not you
Right.
can achieve them, it's are they relevant to what it is that you want to achieve. The other
Mhm.
thing that's important too here in the business context is you can assign goals to people that might not be relevant to their job function. And that's why
Mhm.
it's realistic and it's something that the business may be focused on, but that team or those individuals may or may not have action they can take towards that goal. So you want to make sure that the goals for yourself, for your business, for your teams are relevant to what actionable things they can take, as well as make sure they align with what you want to do.
You know what? I think that's important. They have to be in alignment in order for you to really be jazzed by your goals, right? So you ask a couple of questions within your this chapter. I like I don't like it. I love the quote: "Set your goals high and don't stop till you get there." Bo Jackson, be like Bo, right? I mean, those
That's
were the
right.
commercials back in the day. And, we all wanted to be Bo Jackson. He made a lot of money too, as we were talking about before. And he was a great, great two sport athlete. But why, in this whole process, you say ask a couple of questions? Who am I? Why is that important to ask?
Well, in order to set goals that really align with your passions, it starts with understanding who you are. What are your values? What's important to you? And if you don't
Mhm.
have clarity around that, you can set these goals, but what's going to happen is
Right.
you can make a lot of money, you can climb the corporate ladder, but you're not going to, at the end of the day, be looking in that mirror every night, feeling joy and satisfaction. And sure, you may feel that for a little bit because you're making money, but we know that money is not the key to happiness. Yeah, money buys you things and that's nice and it
Mhm.
pays your bills. But there are so many people out there that have a ton of money and are unhappy, unfulfilled,
Right.
lonely for a number of reasons. So, really start with focusing on who are you? What's your core values? What is really important to you? What's your passion? What excites you? And then you set goals around that. And that's not just from a career standpoint or a business standpoint, that's in all areas of your life.
Right. I think that's great. So you ask, and this is one of the aspects I love about this book is that it's interactive. So, you're asking individuals to write down their top 5 goals. It's not like you're saying, "Hey, listen, what are they?" And just kind of move on. What are your top 5 values? Are they in alignment with your goals? What is important in your life? That's a big question. That is a huge question. What do you enjoy doing? What excites and energizes you? So, Jen, what's one value that you possess when you're setting a goal?
That's a great question. I mean, I
You
think
know
for
I'm
me,
always going to throw you a curveball, and you just hit it. You just hit it out of the park.
I thought you were going to ask me what's one value that you have high on your list, not that's tied to a goal. So I would say for me, it's all about authenticity. So
Mhm.
I think it's very important to stay who you are, own your story, whatever that story is, whatever that path
Right.
is. And so for me, as a content provider, as a thought
Hmm.
leader, as someone who is always putting themselves out on social media and
Hmm.
creating content and telling stories, the goals that I set tied to content and courses and things that I'm producing are all about staying in alignment with my authentic self and showcasing that and making sure that people really
Right.
see, look, we're not all on 100% of the time. We don't go with through life without struggle. It's okay, right? So
Right.
sharing those things is not a bad thing. And I think for a long time, people thought, like, we're in this movement now where everyone talks about it's okay to be okay and it's okay to not be okay and all these things. But for a
Right.
long time, people didn't post about that. They didn't talk about their struggles. And so I think it's great that we as a society have really allowed for people to showcase those things. And so, I mean, me as well, I used to never do it because it wasn't something that you did. And so now it's very much a priority for me to make sure that as I'm producing content, I stay in
Right.
alignment with my true self.
Right. And I think that's important because what's happening is that when you post something and you post a struggle and we discuss a struggle, that is being authentic. I mean, you're not getting any more real than that at that point in time, right? So
Absolutely.
so it's okay. So when you're setting a goal, what's important in your life?
What's important. So for me, I'll say
What's
I
important in
like
your life? Yes.
so my time is very important. The
Uh-huh.
relationships I have with people are very important. So I like to be very intentional with how I spend my time, not only from a productivity standpoint, of course that's important, but also from, am I making sure that I'm carving out time for the people that matter? I
Right.
say no to a lot of things or I defer things because I'm going to make sure that the relationships that are important to me are not compromised or
Hmm.
being sacrificed to chase a dollar or to chase some other business goal. There was a
Right.
time in my life that was different. When I was in my 20s, it was very much climb the ladder, work, work, work.
Right.
Not that
Right.
I don't work now, but I'm very intentional and I make sure. I think as we get older, we realize the importance of other things besides just trying to establish yourself in your career.
Right. So you're asking who are you? Now, I think this is really important, the next question, because if you don't know where you're going, where do you want to go? If you don't have that vision, you can, I remember when I was younger, there was Monty Python, and one of the funny skits was the 100-yard dash with people with no sense of direction. So they're all running around. It was hysterical. And you have to know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to arrive at any goals, right?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
So it's important to know where you're going and what you want to do because without knowing where you're going, it just becomes that 100-yard dash. And that is a very funny skit. I'm going to have to Google it after there. And how am I going to get there? So this is where now you put together your plan, right?
Yes. So first you got to know, where do you want to go? Right? What destination do you want to get to? And then what's your route? What's your plan? What's your playbook, as I talk about in the book? You got to have a plan. Now, that plan isn't always going to work out the way you want it, but you have to have some baseline set of plays that you're going to run and you adjust and you pivot as you need to get you to where you want to go.
And entrepreneurs always need to know where they're going, because if they don't know where they're going, it's, as we said, it gets all over the place. So I want to belabor this point a few, because it's extremely important to know where you're going, and you need to ask that. You need to write it down, and you need to figure out all of that information. I like that. And, you also say what excites you, what energizes you, because you want to have a goal that does excite you. You want to have a goal that challenges you, right? You don't want to have a goal, oh, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Then you get up at 5 and you lie in bed and you're on your phone for the next hour or so, right? So what energizes you for this week?
Well, I'm very much a football person, as you know. So I'm energized because getting ready for Super Bowl. I'm heading to Tampa in a week and a half. So I think there's a little bit of extra energy because of that. But for me, I think it's really having goals that align with what's important to me. And when you have those goals, you're fired up, you're energized, you wake up and you're ready to go because you can't wait to see what the day holds. You can't wait to make progress. And so I think it's so important to set those goals that really align with your passions and your why. And when you do that, then that extra energy, it just comes.
So you're going to the Super Bowl this year.
I haven't decided if I'm actually going to be in the Super Bowl. I've got some meetings with some football folks and stuff during Super Bowl weekend, but we
That's
shall
nice.
see.
I
I
did
will
I did go to
decide
one Super
soon.
Bowl. It was the Giants and the Ravens. It was the wrong Super Bowl to go to for a Giants fan. So anyway, SMART goals. Can you give us an example on how to use the mnemonic SMART? Give us an example.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one simple example that I use quite a bit when I'm talking with different groups is I take a guy named Jim. And Jim is a guy that's had a great corporate career, and Jim has no kids. And one thing that Jim has always wanted to do was make an impact in the lives of younger adults. And
Hmm.
so a goal for Jim is he wanted to start a nonprofit. Okay, so
Hmm.
that's the goal. But then you can have some meat around it. So I want to start a nonprofit with where I reach X number of kids. So let's say 100 kids in the community, and I want to have 5 programs tied to that. And so these are things like you have. The other thing too is I think you want to have the time bound. So in this example, Jim wants to impact kids. That's the big goal. His
Hmm.
smaller goals tied to that is in the next year, he wants to have a nonprofit set up. He wants to, let's say, get 100 kids. He wants to have 5 programs put together. So those are specific things that you
Hmm.
can do in year 4. He wants to have this program grown to 1,000 kids, right? So, but it's having numbers, so
Hmm.
specific. He can look at, okay, did I do this or not, right? Did I have my nonprofit set up? Did I impact 100 people by having them in? Do I have 5 programs? Like it's a yes or a no. It's not a, well, I
Right.
think I got there. It's very specific. It's measurable. Were there 100 kids, right? And even if he only got 50, that's okay, but he knows, where am I relative to my goal? So you can measure your progress along the way. Is it actionable? Is this something that he can take action on? Yes, it's his baby, right? He wants to start a nonprofit. So in this
Right.
example, it's all in his control, so to speak. Is it relevant? It is relevant because I mentioned in my hypothetical that he's always wanted to impact kids. He has no kids of his own. So that aligns with his purpose. And is it time bound? And I said, yes, year 1, 100 kids. What did I say?
Right.
5 programs, whatever, 3, 5 programs. Year 2, he wants to have X number. So be very specific. And if you don't hit it, that's okay. But you want to have the numbers so that way you can measure your progress and you can see, hey, if I really want to hit, let's say it's January. Jim wants to do this by December. Okay. So let's say in June, he's got the nonprofit, he's got his 5 programs, only has 50 kids, and he really wants to hit that 100 by the end of the
Right.
year. He can say, okay, how am I going to get 50 more kids in? Right? What do my plays need to be now to
Right.
be able
Sure.
to do that? And so it gives you an indicator of where you're at. Same thing on a football field, right? Are you at the 40-yard line? Are you at the 20? Are you about to score? Where are you at? And so,
Right.
same concept here. Having that specificity is going to help versus just saying, oh, yeah, I want to impact kids. Okay, what does that mean? Right. So,
Right.
you want to really get granular in the details as far as what should the goal be so that you can measure it.
I have a question, and I think it's important. What happens if you're somebody who's never set goals before? Should you set a lot, or should you perhaps set one or two? And how would you approach that?
Sure. Well, it's time to start if you've never set one.
Hmm.
And I would say don't get caught up in the number. I would say it'd probably be better to start with just a couple, right? But
Right.
there's no magic number, but just take on a couple, because if you try to do too much, you're going to get overwhelmed, and then you're going to quit because you're going to just feel like you can't. It's too much change at one
Hmm.
time. So I would say, maybe pick one or two and just focus on those. And then as you start to build that discipline into your action plan and your routine to get you moving on those things, then you can introduce more goals. But I wouldn't try to do too many at once.
Because what I find is that a lot of my friends, and perhaps you find this also, is that they set so many goals. You know, they'll take the last week of December off, and they're writing and they're writing. They got their journal and they're going. And now they got like 25 goals that they're already ready to rock and roll with. I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to make X amount of money. I want to open up another business. I want to have a fantastic relationship with my significant other. I want to make sure that my son or daughter, is, has X amount of lessons in their life. So when you set a goal, seasoned individual, writing the book, writing the Bible on it, right? How many goals do you set during a course of a year?
So I don't have a number, but I guess one thing I should caveat too is when I said for the new goal setter, 1 to 2, that's like 1 to 2 short-term goals in the
Right,
next year. So I believe we all should have short, medium, and long-term
right,
goals. So you can set those. And I think people that like to set a lot of goals, just time phase them, right? Like, okay, I have 25 goals, but over what time horizon am I going to work
right,
on these things? So you can identify them, but I wouldn't say, okay, I got to work on all 25 today. You're just not going to get it all done. You
right,
have to prioritize. So, yes. The other thing is you want to have different types of goals. So, you want for your kids, right? What are things that you want to do with your kids this year? For
right,
example, for me, it's being more diligent with my 11-year-old daughter in her homework. We're still online learning. And so, we've talked before offline about how
right,
as an 11-year-old, as a parent, we can't expect them to be super independent and just make sure they're on top of stuff. So for me, that's a focus area from a family standpoint, making sure that I'm helping my daughter to be successful. So you
right.
have all these different goals in different
Mhm.
areas, and then you prioritize and you time phase them. So that way, maybe
Right,
one you're working on the next month is an intense focus. Maybe this other one is over the next year. I want to make this much money, whatever it is. But you don't
right,
do too much all at once. You got to
right.
prioritize, got to focus.
Because what I find is that a lot of individuals they'll have these categories. They have like a half a dozen categories: personal, financial, spiritual, and then they have like 10 goals underneath. That's just way too many. Get the momentum going, right? That's why we're here on Momentum
Hmm.
Monday. Get the momentum going and then go from there. I think that's
Yes.
a better strategy than having all of those goals, wrapped up into one. So the book
Yes.
is Move the Ball. Okay. Leadership expert, attorney Jen Garrett. How can they get the book, Jen?
It's on Amazon in Kindle form as well as paperback. And there's an audio version that you can get on iTunes as well as Audible.
Excellent. I recommend it. I've read the book. I'm rereading the book and we're going through the book. So this is a fabulous book. We're in chapter 5 right now. We're going to be back with chapter 5 because there's more to talk about. Jen, any other pearls before we get off the air today?
This is the beginning of a week again, right? It's
Hmm.
Momentum Monday. So if you haven't already, we talked in a prior session about prioritizing for the week and my routine of planning things out on Sunday. If you haven't planned out your week yet, do that today. Map out the things
Right.
that you need to get done. And here's the thing too, like a lot of clients that I work with, they are overwhelmed, they're frustrated, they're not seeing the progress, they're stressed out. A lot of times people get stressed out because there's so many things in here that they're trying to
Right.
balance. put the things on paper that you need to put on paper. And then the other things that don't, or that I should say that you need to do this week. Then there are other things still up here that are like, oh my gosh, I still got to get this done. Just
Right.
think about, you know what? I'm going to do those 4 things next week. That's not a priority for me this week. And what happens is it relieves some of
Right.
that stress, some of that pressure you're putting on yourself
Correct.
just by writing it out for next week. Say, okay, these things I will do next Monday. I don't have to worry about it this week. And you just are less stressed. So I would say if you haven't planned your week out yet, plan that out. Just try writing down what your big things are that you're going to do each day and see how you feel. I'm
Right.
hoping that you think it's a great technique.
Yeah, I think I do this. I do it every Sunday night. Plan out my week. I have my planner. I have a calendar. I got my Google Calendar. I got calendars all over the place. So it's all good to do that. So the book is Move the Ball. Attorney Jen Garrett. Jen, thank you very much again for being here on Monday. It's always a pleasure to start Mondays off with you. And we will be back next week. Same bat time, same bat station, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jen, thank you very much.
Thank you. 9:30 a.m. Just to correct
9:30
you.
a.m. Yeah, we're not starting Momentum Monday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the a.m. Friends, thank you very much for listening in. Move the Ball, Momentum Monday. Until next week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.